Now, is there more to it than that? Of course. Yeah, really. But this is the baseline stuff. And I think that if you have those three levels, the top, middle, and bottom of your funnel written out so that you understand exactly what the process is that you want people to go through when they're buying from you, then I think that you can look at that, keep it super simple, and try not to overcomplicate it with all the things that basically ads on social media are telling you that you need, and just focus on the experience. So, we're starting off with some of the thoughts that you might be having about sales funnels and just the idea of sales and, selling yourself, because that's essentially what a business is, right? You're not doing this just for your own pleasure or your own enjoyment of it. You're doing it so that you can make some money so that you can do whatever it is that you have planned for that money that you make. And so some of these might sound familiar, which are some thoughts that often come up whenever I get with someone who's like really on edge about selling and marketing and just sales funnels in general. And maybe you're thinking, I don't have a sales funnel, or I suck at sales, or I hate being salesy, or why do I even have to sell? Like, can't I just let them make their own decision based on, what they know about me? And these are totally valid and real things to be thinking about. And so I don't want to tell you to stop thinking them. I can't control what you're thinking, right? That's something that you have to do on your own with your own personal development, with your self-care practices, just kind of getting your thoughts in order, because, our thoughts are what drives everything, right? Our thoughts are what we end up creating in the world around us. And so what I want to say about sales is that, a lot of it has to do with the words that people are using that may not necessarily appeal to you. So let's say that you are pretty sensitive and you consider yourself heart-centered and you just want to actually make a difference with your business, and you don't want it to just be about the business and then making money and then sell the business and make more money, right? So there are some tried and true practices, and the key is to figure out a way for them to work for you. But the baseline understanding of how sales work for you as a small business owner and how people end up buying from you, you need to have some kind of like baseline understanding of that. And so this episode is going to kind of cover the most simple format of a sales funnel and making sure that you understand how people go from I totally don't know what I'm doing to, yeah, I can sell things. What am I selling? I'll just get out there and do it. So first things first, a sales funnel doesn't need any fancy technology. Really, you don't need any expensive software or apps or upsells or tracking pixels until you actually want to deal with those, or until you want to hire someone to deal with those for you. Technically, a sales funnel can be completely unplugged, and it's really just the process that your most ideal client or customer goes through when they're making a transition from being just some stranger on the planet who doesn't know who you are, and then going from that to becoming someone who's putting their credit card, into your site, and the money actually goes into your bank account, right? And so if you have ever made a sale, if you've sold anything, then you already have a sales funnel, assuming that the person that bought from you is your ideal client. I mean, like, you can technically have a sales funnel with people who are a wrong fit, but we'll just assume that you have sold to people that you consider the most ideal client that you would love to work with again and again, or that you would love to have come back to your store or your shop and buy again because they're just such a pleasure to work with. And, they don't question your prices and they don't try to take advantage of you or haggle with you, that kind of thing. Okay. And so if you've ever sold anything, then you have a sales funnel. Someone somewhere didn't know about you at some point, and now their money is in your bank account, or at least like it was for a brief moment. So we call it a funnel because, technically there are lots of potential buyers at the beginning. Everyone on the planet, right? I mean, not really, but if we want to generalize it, technically any human with money and a bank account would be someone who could potentially buy from you, right? Thanks to the internet. And then we funnel them down, to something a little more narrow at the bottom, which is a much smaller number of people at the bottom. And those are the people who eventually buy from you, right? The people who end up buying. So a lot of sales and marketing practices that the social media algorithms are feeding you are talking about this sales process in one way or another. People going from stranger to putting their money into your bank account. But I think that what gets it confusing is that a lot of people use fancy words that they may or may not have made up because, as an entrepreneur, or if you've ever gotten into like thought leadership or becoming a speaker or something like that, they always tell you to come up with a model or like your own version of how things work so that it builds authority and it looks really fancy. And so lots of people come up with different terms for it. But what it comes down to is that at the top of your funnel, at the very top, is called the top of the funnel, top of funnel, TOF. The middle of the funnel is called middle of funnel, MOF. And then the bottom of it is called the bottom of the funnel. And I know that sounds way too simple, but it's really helpful to know about these terms and knowing where you are in the funnel process so that you can understand where all of your business building tasks and activities that you're doing, all the like social media content and the networking events, and maybe even the Facebook ads and all of the everything that you're doing to hopefully bring more customers into your business is somewhere in either the top, middle, or the bottom. And so you already have a funnel in place, but it may not be super obvious. So we're going to walk through it, and hopefully you'll walk away with a better understanding of how you can make sales funnels. You can make your understanding of a sales funnel help with making sales without becoming someone that you're not. So let's start at the bottom of the funnel. And basically, this is what they end up buying. So I want to ask you, what are your offers? What is it that you have for sale? And what you want to do is just write down, you could take a sticky note or a napkin or whatever is in front of you and just write down what your top 1 to 2 items are for sale. Like if anyone was going to buy anything, these are the 1 to 2 things that they would probably end up buying from you. Okay? Guess what? That's the bottom of your funnel, because ultimately the call to action is buy my thing, right? Buy my services, buy an intensive, join my group program, buy, one of my services from, like my haircutting studio, buy my art, whatever it is, 1 to 2. Okay. So I know that, you might be super creative and you might have like created a suite of offers, and maybe you have like ebooks and workbooks and stuff like that. Most likely you're going to have 1 to 2 that are your primary ones, right? That you'd rather have people buy, whether because it's like your main moneymaker, or that this one thing is actually what's really going to help them. And the other things are things that you created to sell on the side because some people need a little more convincing, right? So you're going to have those 1 to 2 things at the bottom of your funnel. And now we're going to jump to the very top of your funnel. So these are the strangers on the internet that had no idea about you, but they heard about you from somewhere. So how do people usually find out about you? And for a lot of us, unfortunately, this is social media. So maybe they see your posts on Instagram or TikTok, or perhaps they saw you on Facebook doing a live stream. Maybe they heard you speak as a guest on a podcast. And so people who didn't know anything about you suddenly were like, oh, cool. They do this thing. And I had no idea. And then they, end up looking you up and doing their research and diving into how much you know about your subject area and why you're the person that they are probably going to end up hiring or buying from. And that is essentially the top of your funnel. It's just how people get to know you. And so people either know you or they don't. And depending on if they do or don't, that's where they are on the funnel. So that's the top. We've got the bottom and the top now. And now we want to think about the people in the middle. And these are the people who already know you. So they already saw you, they're already following. But think about what it is that makes them stick around. What is it that makes them show their support for you? Maybe they've already bought from you and then they bumped up to the middle of the funnel because they're still sticking around. And then they tell their friends about you, and then like their friends end up following you. So the people who are kind of like really become fans of your work, or maybe they're the kinds of people who buy from you the most. So I'd like you to take a moment and consider why it is that they keep coming back to you. Is it because of your personality? Because they find you really authentic and they really relate to you on like a personal level? Like maybe you share an identity or you identify with some community that they're also part of. Maybe you donate a portion of your sales to a cause that they really care about. Or maybe they just find you really entertaining and, they want you to succeed because they just think that you're talented and they want to support you. So you're essentially thinking of what makes people root for you. And you can write that in the middle. So at the top, remember that you've got, how strangers end up finding out about you. In the middle, you've got why people stick around. And then at the bottom is the one or two things that you have for sale that ultimately everyone ends up buying. So we've got the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and then the bottom of the funnel on your sticky note or whatever it is that you're just jotting really quick notes on. So let's revisit the bottom of your funnel. And what we want to concentrate on here is that when you've got people's attention and they're saying that they're a big fan, they're constantly commenting, they're always watching your stories on Instagram, or they're always like resharing your stuff on Facebook. What you want to do when you have their attention like that is give them a call to action. And so a call to action, if you're not familiar, is the thing that you say at the end of your posts, at the end of your emails, your blogs, your interviews, whatever it is that they're, consuming from you. And you want to give the audience or the reader directions on what to do next. And this sounds kind of obvious, but it's actually something that's missing from a lot of people's sales funnels. Because if someone wants to buy your product from you or or sign up for your service or like hire you for something, where do they go? Exactly. For those 1 to 2 things. Is it easy for them to buy from you? For example, is there a link and then it goes to a cart and then they just punch in the credit card number and that's it? Or, and this is literally how some people do it, do they have to comment first? Do they have to DM you first and then wait for you to answer? Do they have to attend a live sale or a webinar first? And then they have to book a discovery call where you're going to sell to them technically, but you don't really want to sell, but you're doing this because you see other people doing it. And then after that, they have to wait for their appointments and then they're put on a wait list. And you probably see where I'm going with this. But, you get more people to the bottom of your funnel, basically making those sales, if you make the call to action as easy and as hands-off as possible. And that is where the technology comes in, because you ideally have some kind of checkout system, a cart, right? Where they can put in their credit card and then they're off and on their way. And it doesn't require you to be attached to your phone all the time so that you can walk them through the process. And I know that not everybody has that luxury, especially depending on what season of your business you're in. If you're just getting started or if you are having tech trouble, there's a ton of reasons why you wouldn't have a checkout system already set up. And if that's the case, then maybe you can stick with your very manual process and that's fine for now. But you've got a few things that you're juggling. And I think that the checkout process and the buying process, especially if it's really just they're buying it from you and that's it, you should make that as simple as possible. So your call to action in that case would be buy the thing, whatever the thing is, then you give them the link and then they're off. But remember that ultimately the point is to get people through the whole funnel and moving through the funnel and then figuring out where a lot of people are getting stuck to understand exactly why they're not making that purchase. But ultimately, you get to choose exactly what kind of funnel you have. Technically, any person with a credit card or a debit card can become your customer. And ideally, you would make it as smooth as possible for that to happen between them and you. Now, is there more to it than that? Of course. Yeah, really. But this is the baseline stuff. And I think that if you have those three levels, the top, middle, and bottom of your funnel written out so that you understand exactly what the process is that you want people to go through when they're buying from you, then I think that you can look at that, keep it super simple, and try not to overcomplicate it with all the things that basically ads on social media are telling you that you need, and just focus on the experience. Like, if a lot of people know about you, if a lot of people heard about you, you're getting lots of views and comments and interactions on social media, maybe you're getting a lot of referrals via email, and you have to catch up on discovery calls and things like that, then you understand where the block is. Because if people aren't buying, then you can adjust, like, your sales call process, because that's the transition between them having fun with you and understanding what you're all about and being a big fan and actually buying from you. That means that they're getting stuck between the middle and the bottom. And then if we want to broaden things out a little bit, then you want to look at how people are seeing you. If you're getting lots of views and, public comments, or people are sharing your stuff, then, maybe it's not the greatest use of your time to work on the sales process or to set up a complicated funnel with all this extra, like, Kajabi or ClickFunnels software that you don't really want to deal with anyway. And then you can think about the top of the funnel. If people are hearing about you, like, you find out that a conversation that you had with a podcaster is doing really well. Like, maybe that host messages you and says, "Oh my gosh, your episode is like one of my highest ranking, has the highest number of listens. And I don't know what happened, but like everyone is really interested in sharing your stuff." Then you want to understand why they're not going from that to actually taking the next step, which depends on, the call to action that you gave them on the interview. But you want to understand why they're not going from being at the top of the funnel, just finding out about you, to becoming a fan or a follower and, joining your list or signing up for your next workshop or grabbing whatever it was that you told them to grab, whether it's a checklist or some kind of resource. You're basically pre-planning all of the interactions that people are going to be having with you until the point where they're ready to buy and hire you or whatever it is. So that is sales funnels extra super oversimplified, but I hope that it kind of like shows you that you technically have a sales funnel and that it might just be a matter of looking at it a different way and seeing exactly what the transitions are between all the levels of your funnel, and that it doesn't have to be super tech heavy, right? You can technically do all of this and track everybody on a spreadsheet. So just keep it as simple as possible, really. So my call to action for you for this episode is to just consider looking down at the sticky note that you wrote your notes on and be honest with yourself. Like, where is it that you're getting hung up on this stuff? Where is it that you might be overcomplicating it? And based on what you learned in this episode, what action step do you think you're going to take? If you'd like to get in touch with me, I'm actually on LinkedIn a whole lot more now because I've found that it's a lot less draining for me as a social media platform. Send me a DM over on LinkedIn and let me know what you took away from this episode, and maybe I can give you some feedback if you want it. Okay? Thanks for listening, everybody. I will see you next time.